Hey, YouTube Duck. Sorry, been having issues. I'm trying to get somebody into live, and I'm good. How are you? Okay, tonight. I don't know what was going on because it was marked public. So, I don't know. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Today, we are talking about city wildlife, urban wildlife. Now, this is a tricky subject because what is city wildlife for my area may not be city wildlife in Colorado, Mexico City, Salt Lake City, San Francisco, and it's gonna change. But basically, it boils down to this: animals need basically three things. Okay, they need a home, they need food, and they need water. If they have access to those three things, they're good to go. It helps when an animal isn't necessarily hampered by diet. An animal that is hampered by diet is going to have a harder time, possibly. So, for example, right now we have migration going on. So we have a lot of birds that are moving in and out of habitats. Oh. I'm sorry, y'all. I forgot. It is Tuesday. What am I doing? Give me a second, guys. Okay, so as of right now, I have 434 subscribers, 14.8 thousand views, and 167 watch time hours. Last week I had 5 videos, 7 shorts, 4 live streams, and 1 post. Three 3.2 thousand people tuned in. We had 14 new subscribers just last week, which is pretty cool, I think. Whale tails, right whale species focus, and thus 2 groups of whales is what they watched. I had 37 likes, 16 shares, and 5 comments. So I'm not going to do the other group because I want to stay focused. I don't know what's going on. I personally like this format because it's easier for me to go in and get everything planned out. It's actually harder on me to do the other format because the screen is really tiny comparatively. But anyway, getting back on track. So animals up here, animals like coyote, raccoon, red fox, crow, skunk, pigeons, rats, Virginia possum, white-tailed deer to an extent, Canadian geese, peregrine falcons, raptors. All of those animals are going to have a really much easier time in our suburban areas, our urban areas, because food is readily available for those animals. We even have badger in our area. A lot of areas are going to have that with the bats because they can take shelter in buildings. It's not always that case. But yeah. And snakes. I mean, snakes are definitely part of an urban landscape, possibly, depending upon the snake. Here in Chicago, or in the Chicago area, we have coyotes. We have had coyotes walk right in the stores. And they're able to survive because there is access to food. They do depend on territory, but they're also potentially a pack animal, but they're also an animal that can etch out a living by themselves. In my area, we actually have a pack. Now, they don't necessarily... I've only seen a pup. I've never seen adults. But in places in my city, you can hear them. Raccoons. Raccoons have it easy. They do. Now, there are problems with coyotes. Coyotes will interbreed with female dogs. So, like if you have, let's say you have a female German Shepherd who's in heat, and there's a male coyote around, if she's receptive to him, you could end up with a German Shepherd coyote crossbreed. Yeah, that's the thing. There are a lot of animals that we probably miss. Oh, by the way, coyotes can also spread any disease that your dog can pick up. So, something to consider. Make sure your animals are vaccinated. Raccoons can spread distemper. They can pick up distemper. They can spread rabies. Not saying that raccoons don't have their place, because they do. Every animal within reason has their place. Now, when I say animals, I am not talking necessarily about invasive animals, because that's a different situation. But yeah, raccoons and quadrimundis have the same sort of lifestyle. They can etch out a living because there's people around and people throw stuff away. We don't always do a good job of keeping our garbage under wrap. And so, easy pickings for them. Things like snakes. If there's garbage, or not even garbage, but if there's a source of food that rodents can get their hands on, they're going to eat it. And that attracts snakes and other animals. That's why owls and hawks do so well in urban areas. When they started reintroducing peregrine falcons into the States, they were doing them in cities, and they would provide nesting boxes on the tall buildings. And one of the reasons that they were so successful, wow, that was a big drop, is that they were provided food in the form of pigeons. Red fox, that's another animal. You may not see them, but they're probably there. They're going to be a nocturnal animal for the most part. You might see them in the morning, but they're going to be out there feeding on whatever is out there. They're going to be an opportunist, feeding on mice, rats, cottontails, stuff like that, rabbits. Crows, that's another bird that is pretty opportunist. They're going to be getting into the garbage. They're going to be checking out the garden, taking mice. I've seen them take snakes. Yeah, they're going to take advantage of the situation and live. Skunks are another one. They will go out into people's yards and get the grubs out of them. Those little white worms or fat chunky things that you take out of your yard sometimes when you're digging. Yep, they're going to eat those, as well as other stuff. Pigeons, moles, yeah. Moles are kind of everywhere, though, but they are a part of that landscape, although in a formal city, there's a lot of cement. So I don't know how that ties into it, but pigeons have been spread around a lot, and so major cities have pigeons. Heck, I think even suburbs have pigeons. Rats, unfortunately, again, Norway rats, black rats, they got spread around via boats. And now just about everybody has rats. Now, up here, we have the Virginia possum. This is another animal that is an opportunist and pretty much can live in a limited space. As long as they have food and a place to rest, they're good to go, and water. Snakes, yes. Snakes are an animal that as long as they have a food source, you're probably good to go. They need a place to hide out. And as long as they have a food source, whatever that might be, they're good. We want animals around that are going to eat the rodents. And snakes, depending upon the type, will eat rodents. That's one of the reasons why in some places they have, like in the rice paddies in Asia, they have snakes. Because the mice are there eating the rice. And so they'll get cobras and other stuff in there. And yeah, not necessarily cool, but they have them. Now, bats are interesting because depending upon the type of bat, depends on what type of habitat they're living in. Some of our native bats will actually roost in trees underneath the bark. They may be living in people's houses. I don't know why I'm yawning. Yeah, so no, because that causes problems. Look at Hawaii. They did that, and now they have a bunch of extinct birds. I didn't even see it. Whoever is sending messages that aren't good, please stop. Sorry, y'all. Because no, we're not doing that. How about no? This is your only warning. Your only warning. Goodbye. You get a timeout. 10-second timeout. I'm not playing it. I don't know, but I'm not doing it. So animals are really cool. I had messages that I don't know what they were, but I will be looking at them. If I get it again, he's gone. So what were we saying? Bats. So bats are cool. They eat insects for us. Some of them, not all of them do eat insects, but most of them do. That was Dad. You heard that sneeze? Bless you, Dad. Yeah. I like to think that animals have their way of making it. Let's see. Canadian geese. They will graze on grass and other plants. And as long as they have a food source and potentially open water, they might stick around for the entire year. Yeah, that's true. And so some animals have had their habits changed because of man. Some animals are also moving into the area. The animal that is in the thumbnail, that one actually has been moving into our area. The pine squirrel. I don't want to be a jerk, but if you're coming into my chat, into my lives, and you're spamming or whatnot, oh yeah, of course, that's a problem, is waste, but they got to do it. It just is a pain, and it's something that cities have to deal with. They have to make that decision. Do we allow the geese to stay, or do we send them on their way? But it's absolutely something that we have created. We've made it easy for them to live. Somewhere there's a way. Yeah. Just so future, I want to take a second because this bothers me. I want to take a second, Carol, and I want to talk about something, because if you come into my live and you are spamming, or you're using words that are not okay, you're gonna get banned. You're my first thing I'm gonna do is I am going to give you, talk about city wildlife. You're gonna get a 10-second block or a 10-second timeout. After that, and you come out of that and you're still acting up, I'm gonna kick you. So just so everybody knows, for those watching this, I know certain people are good, and I'm not worried about them. But for the rest of you, I don't play. Okay, back to our regular program. There are animals that I didn't even know we had, like American badger. I had no clue, but they're here, and I've seen the end result of them being here. Unfortunately. Hello, new person. I don't know who you are, but I'll wave to you. Animals are kind of funny because in India, there are leopards that live in the cities or on the edges of the city, and they will come into the city and find food. Unfortunately, sometimes not in a good way, but yeah. We have bobcat in places, and bobcat, if you're not native to the United States or Canada, bobcat is a medium-sized cat. They're bigger than a house cat for sure. But if there's rodents around, they will eat the rodents. And birds as well. Humans create habitat. We are one of the reasons why the brown-headed cowbird left the plains. Our fields for cows and whatnot have created habitat for them in which they can now come in and parasite, or they're brood parasites. So they'll come in, lay their eggs, and then go about their business. Songbirds, as long as they have a source of food, like woodpeckers, for instance, not really a songbird, but dead trees are prime habitat. Not only do they provide a food source for the woodpeckers, but they also provide homes, and not just for woodpeckers. Wood ducks will nest in them. Squirrels will nest in them. Owls will nest in them. So lots of animals will make use of other animals' habitats in order to live. Let's see, how is the polls doing? Wow, everybody is yays for pigeons. Okay. We're going to end that poll. And we're going to start a new one. Sorry. Do you think coyotes, whoops. Do you think coyotes have a place in our cities? Raccoons, yes, definitely have their thing. Uh-oh. That was weird. Yeah, it depends on one of the interesting things that I've noticed is some animals, I don't know where did what go? You gotta tell me more than that. Nothing happened on my end. One of the interesting things is watching some animals move into the area and other animals moving out of the area. Oh, I did a new poll. I can only have one poll at a time, but I can do more than one poll. Animals will some animals are more aggressive than others. And so the gray squirrel has literally pushed out the fox squirrels, the bigger squirrels with the sort of orangey backs. They pushed those out of the area. And they may have also pushed some of the pine squirrels out. It's an interesting dialogue going on with that. Not dialogue, that's the wrong word. Dynamic. So animals that are more aggressive can push other animals out. That's why animals like a mute swan, not necessarily a good thing, because they will push out the native waterfowl so that they don't nest in areas where they could be nesting. Sorry. It's been a long day. If you are here and you are enjoying chat, give me a like. I wanted to... Now here's a good example of an... If it doesn't have the orange knob on the head, yes. The animals that have the birds that have the orange knob on the bill, those are not natives. There are two native swans, the trumpeter swan. Oh, what's the other one? Ah, poo. The trumpeter swan. Hold on. The trumpeter and the tundra swan. And they both have black bills. Whereas the mute swan has an orange bill and a black knob above the bill. And right now, these birds are actually migrating through. So depending upon where you live, you have a chance of seeing them. This is a great time to do wildlife watching, because there's a lot of stuff moving through. So sometimes we get visitors from out of town. Another animal that up here we don't see a whole lot of because we kicked them out is the black bear. There are places in the United States where black bears are part of the scene. They may not come down into the city often, but they're there. Depending upon where you live, scorpions could be a part of that urban wildlife or suburban wildlife. And that presents a problem because not so much our scorpions, except for a few, Not just Arizona. But yeah. There are some species like the bark scorpion, I believe, that has a little bit more serious sting to it. And they do present a bit of a problem. Usually for the elderly. Oh yeah, that you should, because they can get into the house. I would do it, and not just for. That's a universal issue, though. In Australia, they do it for a multitude of animals. It the smaller the pinchers, the more toxic the scorpion. That's a way to do it, is the pinchers. Scorpions that have really heavy pinchers are less toxic. It doesn't mean, though, that you should encourage being stung, because you can be allergic to their sting, to the venom. And a good rule of thumb is just not to get stung, period. But that's the great thing about wildlife, is there's always something out there. And what is city wildlife for us isn't going to be city wildlife in Mexico City, in Taipei, in Ho Chi Minh City. It just depends on what's out there. Speak it like I say it like I see it. Wildlife is not always. You're not always going to have good neighbors, animals included. They end up in places you don't want them. And people need to be aware of that. That's why I stress so much. Knowing what is in your area is so important. Because, well, you don't like surprises. Yes, but there are times when they're not necessarily doing anything wrong. But do you want a western diamond? Do you want a rattlesnake in your backyard? If you have little kids? That's what I'm sort of getting at, is wildlife is good. And that you shouldn't go out of your way to disrupt their lives. But at the same time, you don't want issues. And if you do have wildlife that is causing an issue, contact your local DNR, check on their website, and they may have people who will help. That being said, though, it's probably not going to be free. So there's that. I really want to know. I really want to know what those comments were. Oh, nice. Yeah. Um, well, Carol. Yeah, relocate them. Uh, we need to talk after live and strategize. I think YouTube is getting flaky. I was bad and did not really plan this one out. I definitely need to do more planning with lives. Yeah, well, he was using words that are not okay. And that's why they were hidden. Name a car for an edit? I'm not sure either. But I just know I'm not putting up with it. My space, my rules. And if people don't like it, they can leave. Um I just no. If you want to come in and chat, I'm fine with that, but I'm not okay with the other. What do you think, Carol? Call it? I don't know. It's only a minute off. I'm trying to think what else to talk about. That's what I like about having more people. Yeah. They hit it. And the problem is, if I don't deal with it, then I get in trouble. So if he had come back and started again, I probably would have reported him for spamming. I would have got rid of him one way or another. But he didn't come back after I gave him the hover long. I gave him I gave him 10 seconds to figure it out. Well, it wasn't posted where you could see it. YouTube has rules. And yeah, no. Okay, it is time to say goodnight. I will talk to you peeps later. Have a good one. Remember, this is a safe place, so don't bring garbage into my live. Goodbye.